thanks to our Savior. Our Batman, who art in Gotham, cowled be thy mane. Now, y'all know Kip Smith's big old Batman, but did you know his favorite hero is Batman, the Dark Knight who punches dirty turkeys in the face? That's right, Cape Crusader. Punch all those turkeys. Punch them in their turkeys. So once a week now, this no-fly-list Batty's gonna put the food down and get chatty about Batty, and this turkey gets worried about Gotham like it's a real place. He ain't got time for his wife or daughter. Catwoman's losing, Batman ain't caught her. Go get her, Cape Crusader. You want to put to it now? Get ready, turkeys. We gon' bat shit. Babble bat the bat with old Kevin Smith. Now here's the fat man who loves Batman himself, Fat Kip Smith. Get on out here, turkey. Welcome to Fat Man on Batman. I'm Kevin Smith. All right, man, I'm not going to bury the lead. We're back for more of the conversation with Diedrich Bader, the star of Batman Brave and Bold, Batman for the whole run of that series. We had a great conversation with him last week. If you haven't heard the first part of it, go listen to it. It's great. It talks about his youth growing up in France and whatnot, falling in love with performance, Chaplin Theater. Now he's on the road, man. He's a performer. He's been in the Beverly Hillbillies, and he's heading toward new frontiers, man, like the Drew Carey Show, Office Space, you know, where he was the Peter's next door. Hey, Peter, man, you know, I'll tell you what, I'll do 2 chicks at once. He'll tell you it's coming up. Napoleon Dynamite. His adventures go on and on before he gets to the Batcave. And when he gets into the Batcave, he'll give you some chills, man. There's some good stuff coming up, kids. Without further ado, part 2 of Diedrich Bader right here on Fat Man on Batman. Beverly Hillbillies comes out. What happens after Beverly Hillbillies?
Then ultimately, like, I needed to make money.
Right.
And so I went back to television, and that was the Drew Carey Show.
How many years were you there?
The Drew Carey Show was 9 years.
So you took the job looking for rent.
That's right.
But then once you got there, you were like,
in fact, I didn't want to do the Drew Carey Show.
Why?
I only did the Drew Carey Show to drive up my price on another pilot.
What was it?
Partners. The 2 Jeffs, I can't remember.
The ill-fated Partners?
Yeah, the Partners. It was, John, the guy on 2.5 Men. I can't remember.
John Cryer.
John Cryer got my part. Anyway, I wanted to be John Cryer's part. And, but Sony was being really cheap. And so my agent said, well, if we get another one, we can, fight them one against the other.
Right.
So I went in, and Drew had this huge reaction, and then we got the call, like, they really want to work this out. So we used that to drive up the price.
Stalking horse.
Yeah. So that's the way we worked it, and then I didn't get partners. And then I had to do the Drew Carey Show because I had tested and they had said yes. And then I got mad at my agent. I was like, what the fuck, man? I don't even know who this guy is.
Get out of here.
Yeah, seriously. And then, he seems nice enough, but fuck. And then it got picked up, and and it was a great ride. Drew is a really nice dude.
You got along with all those guys.
Oh yeah.
It was fun.
It was really
shooting
fun
it as it was.
Oh no, it was genuinely fun to shoot. To shoot was a different world than rehearsal. Rehearsal was always fun, but Drew wasn't entirely present during rehearsal. Ryan was mostly present during rehearsal, and Kathy Kinney was always dead solid, and Craig sort of would walk around with a script and not, but because Ryan really was an improviser and really needed the audience,
right.
And Drew was stand-up and needed the audience, and Craig did too. So Craig was hilarious in front of the crowd, and he'd be good at run-through, but he was hilarious when the crowd got it.
Mm.
And then and Drew was the same. Like, he didn't really know what Drew was going to do. I mean, he would do the lines and everything, and so the writers would know whether to. I mean, he wasn't being an asshole by holding back or anything.
He was just kind of doing it about 50%.
Yeah, he just didn't really flower until there was like the chance that he was going to get this huge laugh,
and that's the difference between like an actor and a comic actor.
Yeah, he needs
coming
that
from the stage.
Yeah, he needs that. Yeah, he needs that. And then he was great, and shooting was really lovely. I mean, we were out really fast, and because we did 2 takes, and Drew didn't like to do more than 2 takes, and so if you did more than 2, then he'd get a little petulant, and he really wanted to be done,
right.
Which was cool. Once everybody knew the rules,
right.
Like, he really doesn't want to go past 2. So you got to nail it. Those two, those are going to be your 2.
Is that just for shit he's in? Like, if there's shit he's not in, does he give a shit?
No, then he's in his trailer and he doesn't care.
Right.
He's watching porn. having a good time. But
as we've learned,
yeah, you know. No, he was. It was actually really fun. And I was sad when it ended.
9 years, dude.
9
You
years.
must be as rich as fucking Roosevelt. 9 years of television.
I did all right. Yeah.
I mean, that's and
Yeah.
it's a show that was insanely popular.
It did well, yeah.
How
We
was-
weren't friends, which was like a cultural phenomenon, and those guys got paid, you know,
Right, but
tremendous.
still, fucking
Yeah.
money. What is it? What was the network cool? Did you ever have to battle the network? Fucking
Not me. I know Drew did a lot. I loved my responsibility. Then when I had to get into development, it was a very different situation, and I realized what Drew was dealing with, all the pressure that he was talking about.
right.
Because it's hard. I don't know if you develop obviously, but not. Have you done television?
I did a Clerks cartoon.
That's right, you did
Yeah,
Clerks
yeah,
cartoon.
and that was a
Yeah.
bad experience. I mean, making the show was great, but the network was
It's tough
tough.
because they give you notes, and they're so bad
Yeah.
that if it were like a normal conversation, you would completely shut them down or make fun of them.
It's a miracle that anything gets on television, let alone anything good.
Right.
Because it has to run a gauntlet of shit.
Yeah.
It's so long.
Yeah.
It's so fucking narrow.
Well, that's why you need a really big guy who's already been successful. In
Right.
other words, so that they take what he or she says more seriously than if they're just sitting across from me, for example, where they would go, well, you're a pleasant guy, but you don't really know what you're talking about.
Right.
But you want to say the same thing to them, like, you're pleasant enough, but you really, really don't understand what I'm talking about.
And then what's even scarier, though, is you are not shaping the tastes of an entire nation. Like, this is the filter.
This is the
Sometimes
filter.
you stand
Yeah.
across from a network exec, a movie exec, or
Yeah.
whatever, and you're like, oh my God, like,
This is it.
this is why.
Yeah, this
Like
is why.
all those years, I'd sit there and be like, "Why the fuck was this make?
Yeah, this
You're
is terrible.
why?
Yeah,
like,
you were
you're
why.
the one." It's
Yeah.
it's that moment in what L.A. Confidential where he's like Rolo Tomasi.
Yeah.
You know, it's like it
Yeah.
may not be the guy, but
Yeah.
you are
Yeah,
fucking.
you are
Rolo
that guy.
Tomasi.
You are the screen.
It's a miracle when good shit gets through. The new model in TV that everyone's championing is FX when they did Louis show,
Yeah.
Louis C.K. show. They just gave him money and said they didn't develop it. They should pilot. Like, here's
Yeah.
money, go do what you do.
Right.
And then he brought it back, and that's that.
Yeah.
So now, of course, once somebody does and it's successful, now the new model seems to be able.
Well, that would be a fantastic paradigm. But I mean, it's that I think any performer, creator can understand.
Right.
It's like, give us the money, and if we don't make you more money, you can stop giving us money.
yeah,
and
that's
we'll-
it. It's an
Yeah.
easy deal.
I promise you, if you give me this amount of money, I will give a show that will make you money. But if I'm wrong, you know what? There it is. Yeah, there it is. I was wrong, and then you see huge movies that have gone through the whole studio process, like the Poseidon Adventure or something like that. When I first heard about the rewrite for the Poseidon Adventure, I was like, yeah, man, I love that movie. That's gonna be good.
Shit's gonna turn upside down. It's gonna rock.
Man, I'm gonna love that. And then it's like, well, yeah, if you go through the whole studio process, this is kind of what happens.
Right.
This is what you end up with, rather than just handing it to somebody and going. But I guess when you get up to a certain amount of money, that's the thing. If they were to make more for less, and they were just to hand a bunch of dudes or gals $5 million, which you can make an adequate movie for $5 million,
Absolutely.
then you could get another Bridesmaids. You could do that shit. It could be done.
Yeah. It could happen very regularly.
Yeah, it could.
A friend of mine told me how one studio goes through their process. I made a lot of movies at Miramax, and the process was, Harvey, can we do this? And be like, yeah. Or, no. That's it.
Right. Okay.
No fucking gauntlet, one
Right.
guy.
Yeah.
Or in the case of Dimension, Bob, can we do this? Yeah. Or Bob, can we do this? It's fucking stupid. And that's it. It's nice. It was like,
Yeah.
the way it should be. One person's money, a patron, or if
Right.
you will, going, here you go.
A patron, right?
Yeah.
That's a nice way to put it.
Totally.
Yeah.
The studio my friend went to work for, a project would come on the table, and it'd be like, here's the script, here are the names attached, here's the behind the scenes. They're looking for this budget, and they have a room full of people. Every department is represented, 8 different department heads, and it's just like theatrical, home video, television, whatever, across the boards. Everything is broken down to math. Everybody involved is part of the equation.
Yeah.
So high to low in the cast, they'll look and see what every movie that person has been in has ever made.
Right.
They extrapolate this equation, and then will tell you exactly, predict within $5 million what the movie will make.
Wow.
He said, and all the time he worked there, it always worked. The equation was always
kidding.
right. He said, that being said, soul killing. Watch everything come through committee and get killed in committee. It sounded like more like Washington than anything else. Just like, here's something viable, but it's all shouted down.
Right. Just then you get a Mitt Romney, because it's like, how many focus groups can this guy have? How much information can we have? And you know, it's like this. The practical nature of breaking things down doesn't allow for the character of the person itself, or for the soul of the picture that you're telling. I heard a really interesting. I read it about the reason we like narrative, and you can extrapolate that to movies. We are the only predators that don't have a natural ability. Our sense of smell is terrible. Our vision is not so great. We're not really that fast. We can wield weapons, but not incredibly well if we're completely left on our own. But basically, even making a weapon is already an advancement on other animals. We don't have claws, So what do we have? We have our brain, and our brain loves to track. So we'll hit an animal with an improvised explosive device, like a rock or something. We'll throw it, and it'll hit them, and they'll get hurt, and so they'll be bleeding, or they'll be limping. And then we will track them, because they run away from us, and we run as fast as we can after them. But eventually we're going to lose them because they run to live. So we track them. And we're going to find, the red herrings, and, one way we're going to see them, but we're going to be able to figure out exactly what I'm following, and what that thing may be thinking at that time while it's following it. And every time we go the right direction, there's a pleasure signal in our brain that tells us we're going to eat. And not only that, my wife is going to eat, and my kids are going to eat, and it's going to be good.
Right.
And then when we see it, when we finally tracked it down, it can't run any further. It's totally exhausted and sweating and bleeding. And we know we could just run up there with another rock and beat it to death.
Right.
We get this fantastic sense of, I've done it. And that's the reason that we create narratives.
3-act structure of, something, an action.
Right.
Second act is reaction. Third act is reward.
Right. And anytime it strays from the actual path, from the path that we know to be right, that we get the opposite of the pleasure signal. So if a movie goes horribly awry, we're like, why is this? What happened? What?
Right.
And then, because this is the wrong, I was tracking and it was not right. And now this is not the, and then it concludes. And then what's crazy about it is that, at least, I'll speak for myself, but this is what I read, that neurologically, we have to finish. So we have to get that game. If a movie concludes in a way that we don't like it, we'll be brushing our teeth and we'll be thinking about it the next day going, what should have happened?
Right.
Is that this, that, and that? And then, you go, yeah, that wasn't good. Yeah. And then your pleasure signal goes, yeah, that's what I was talking about.
Because you're like, I'm smarter than the average bear.
Yeah.
I'm smarter than motherfuckers who spent millions of dollars.
Millions of dollars. I got it. This is what they should be doing now, and this is the way that it can conclude for me, so I can be done with the hunt, because we got started on this thing.
Right.
And then, I was tracking a deer, and all of a sudden there was this dead mole there, and it's been dead for 3 days.
And I can eat it.
I could eat it, but if I bring that back to my wife, she's going to be like, what the fuck is this?
I'm not getting laid. There will be no more children. My line will die.
Some guy's going to show up with a deer and going to go, hey, and she's going to go,
It's weird. I always thought of storytelling, of course, like, hey, it's primitive. It goes back to us sitting around fires and all. And then there's
but it's before that.
It goes even further
I
back,
think.
before words.
Yeah.
How do you get to Office Space? Did you just audition, or did
I just
Mike
auditioned for it, and I knew...
you didn't even know?
I didn't know.
Honestly, I felt like, man, thank God Mike Judge knew this guy and put him in a movie. The way you talk about you had meetings and cats just didn't get you.
Yeah.
When you see Office Space, you go, oh, there's somebody who fucking knows exactly how to use this fucking guy. It was a real revelation. You know what I'm saying? It's one thing to, you can knock it out the park with Jethro, but still, you're fitting into
Yeah.
structure,
That's
and
right.
not just a structure of like, hey, we know who Jethro is supposed to be based on the show, but
Yeah.
it's a studio movie, blah blah
Yeah.
blah. Suddenly, here in Office Space, just something as simple as like two chicks, man.
Yeah.
And then the chuckle from him, and
Yeah.
then just the hold on you with the
Seriousness, yeah.
fucking earnest expression.
He means it.
I'm like, oh my god, this is the most honest thing he's ever said. Clearly, Judge was like, oh, I know how to use this guy.
Oh yeah. Well, in the audition, he laughed a lot,
Right.
and then Mike fought really hard to get me on the picture.
Why?
The studio did not get me. This has been my story.
What took you?
I got I like to call my career the big number 2 because it's like I'm the director's choice. This is going to sound really egotistical, but a lot of directors have wanted to work with me based on the audition.
Right.
And we get in the room together, and the audition goes really well. And the director, I could see the spark in his head,
Right.
just going, "This is going to be good."
Right.
But then they can't take the tape to the studio and say, "This is the guy that I want," because they're going to say, "Well, we have this guy that tracks better than as you were saying about the numbers and whatever."
Right.
And because I've had such an odd career, you can't look back and say, "Oh, well, he's had this track record where everything has made money." I've done things that I thought were really funny. And, I was encouraged not to do Napoleon Dynamite, for example.
Right.
Because it was like, there was nobody in it.
Right.
And, there's no money. And it's in the middle of nowhere. And there are a bunch of Mormons. And,
You're
what
going
are you
where?
doing?
To Utah?
Yeah. Did you? And I said, "Did you read the script?" Not the whole script,
Right.
which means no. And I go, "Well, it's a funny script. So I want to do it. I don't know what's going to happen to it." So I'm kind of all over the map. So they can't say, "Well, this
Right.
is the thing that." So Mike fought really hard for me, and it was great. I mean, it was all over the map. Like Billy Bob Thornton was going to do it for a little bit, but wanted $5 million, and Johnny Depp also played with it, and so it was going to be like, I think he really wanted Ron, who was great in the movie, and I think that they wanted more stars in it. And I thought,
So they were like, okay, here's
The
a fucking
cameo.
the neighbor could be
anybody.
huge.
Yeah,
right?
it could be, which is reasonable. But Mike fought really hard because he saw the character as a whole thing, and I didn't have the mustache or the mullet or anything. when
Did
I
you do
was
the
in
voice for the Peter Man?
Oh yeah, I did the whole voice. I mean, I came in with the character, but all based on, because this is kind of an odd story. I've never told this one. When Lawrence sits down and starts telling the story, he was doing that drywall up there in Salinas, there's no question mark at the end of Salinas, Put the question mark in there. And also, in the script, it said doing. Like I was doing that drywall up in Salinas. And so I put it in. And I kind of based the whole character on that doing, because he's got that thing where he wants to make sure that you're listening, and we're all cool. Because the thing about Peter is that he's in a different class. I don't know anyone named Peter, so he's different. So we got to make sure we're all cool. So I did it on the first take, and Mike goes, "That was great. Why did you say doing?" And I go, "Well, it's in the script." And he goes, "What?" And he brings it over from the script supervisor, and he goes, "Oh, that's a typo." He goes, "So when you see the movie, I say doing the drywall. I don't say doing because he was like, it doesn't make any sense to say
You
doing."
built your entire
I
character.
put the whole character on the total typo. But yeah, that came to me like the security guard character. Honestly, came to me like when it's real and I know that I want to do it. It comes to me like, and I go, "Oh,
Right.
It's like a possession." And Lawrence, my wife always says she knows when I'm gonna get a part because it just I just put it on, and
Like a coat. Like
yeah,
Willie
just like
Tom's coat.
I'm putting it on, and then I'm that guy, and I'm not her husband. I'm this guy that's in the room with her, and she says that's the moment where I know that this is going to work out. And for her, Lawrence, because we were together at the time, Lawrence was that where I wanted to run through it with my wife before. I always do it. It's better. So then you get to hear the cues.
Totally.
And she's an actress, and she's great. It gives great notes, but she gave no notes for Lawrence. She was like, "Okay, you should do it like that.
Right.
Go in like that." She said no more than that, but that little smile was enough to me to go, "Okay, I got something." And then when I went in, he could not stop laughing when I first started doing it. And then on the set, he was just so great and open and sweet, and he's a nice guy.
Yeah.
And I knew it was going to be. I loved the script, But when I walked down and I saw the art direction of Peter's apartment, I knew it was going to be a really good movie because it was so bland.
Right.
It was so a guy that's never decided what he likes.
Right.
And because usually, they do a dude's apartment and they got pizza boxes everywhere and like T-shirts and like, beer cans or whatever. And there's like some rock, or they'll do an ironic rock concert, or something like that. This was so anonymous. It was basically like
the Oakwood apartment.
it was like the Oakwood Apartments where somebody put up just a little bit, and I went, okay, now we have arrived.
Right.
Because just imagine Lawrence's apartment, and then walking over to this guy's apartment and just Lawrence just making that shift. Like, okay, yeah, this is like, what are we doing here? But this is kind of a funny story because the scene where I come out and Lawrence says, watch your corner. Really totally serious. I always felt like Lawrence meant everything. He really just didn't want him to get fucked up the ass. But he really genuinely didn't want him to get fucked up the ass. It came from his heart.
You're a good guy.
Yeah, you're a good guy, man. I just hope you're not butt fucked up. He did. Mike just did. I think they put a couple in the outtakes at the end, but he did like 30 different versions of that where Lawrence came out and said something else. But where we shot was basically like the Oakwood apartment. There was an Indian couple that lived there that had rented out their apartment just for Lawrence to walk out of the apartment and then back
Just
to the
the
theaters.
exterior.
Just the exterior. And so if you see the movie, like Lawrence, when he steps out, always closes the door like a little bit behind it. Because the guy that lived there would not leave the living room. So you could actually see him, and no matter how much we told him to not be there, he would not leave the living room.
What was he afraid you guys were still?
No, he just would glare right into camera. He was, he was like, he just wanted control over the whole thing, very dark Indian guy, like Southern India, and he just would glare at the thing. And Mike did this whole riff on it. And Lawrence had like this Indian lover. He had this little Indian guy that was his boyfriend. It's my Indian.
Just catch him for a few frames.
I called in the little, yeah. Hilarious. What are you talking to? Yeah.
Come back here.
Come back here. No, I want you back in my bed.
I went to see that movie with my wife in the theater.
Yeah.
Everly Connection.
Was there
Me,
anybody there?
her, and one other person. And it was like opening tag.
Yeah.
And I was just, and I thought, like, watching those trailers, like, this movie's fucking huge.
Yeah,
Man. This
right.
looks funny as fuck, and everybody has a job like this. And
Yeah.
Fucking,
Right.
but man, Fox just didn't know what to do with that movie.
Yeah, I mean, that was a great lesson in movie being marketed badly.
Yeah.
Yeah, they just didn't know what to do with it. They literally had no idea how to do it. Now, of course, it's different. They would do, like a little release, and they would on the internet. They would have like a thing. They just didn't know how to do.
Well,
that.
I mean, if it had been at, say, Fox Searchlight,
Yeah.
where Jared's movie was, Napoleon Dynamite.
Yeah.
They would have fucking known
Oh,
exactly
they knocked it out of the
how
park.
to handle it. I
Yeah.
mean, Fox Searchlight